Young black girl cries, "My stomach hurts bad." Then her millionaire dad burst in at 3 a.m. It was a night thick with shadows, where secrets wrapped around the grand mansion like a suffocating shroud. At an hour when the world mostly slept, a piercing cry shattered the tranquility. "Daddy! My stomach hurts bad!" It echoed through the lavish halls, a chilling wail of panic that could cut through even the heaviest silence. In that instant, time stood still. The colossal chandelier overhead trembled, as if it braced itself for what was to come. There was something strange, almost otherworldly, about the way the midnight air tinged with fear wrapped around the heart. Little Kira had always been full of life. Her wide, glistening eyes always sparkled with mischief. But tonight, those eyes were clouded with pain. She clutched her stomach tightly, her small frame trembling. The rich, opulent decor of the room, a dazzling array of fine paintings and plush, red velvet furniture, seemed to mock her suffering. Outside, the wind howled mournfully, like a ghost anticipating a tragedy. It was the kind of night where anything could happen, where shadows might leap to life. Suddenly, the heavy door swung open with a creak. The air shifted. Kira's father, a self-made millionaire known for his gruff demeanor and towering presence, burst in. His panic-stricken face was a jarring contrast to the stern businessman everyone knew. "Kira!" he shouted, rushing to her side. The faint scent of expensive cologne lingered in the hallway, blending with the smell of something burnt in the kitchen, perhaps a reminder of the dinner left half-eaten in their rush to investigate the child's distress. As he knelt beside her, Kira could see the fear slicing through the confidence displayed in board meetings. He was a giant, her protector, yet his eyes shimmered with uncertainty. "What's wrong, baby?" His voice shook, barely hiding the trepidation that threatened to boil over. The livid blue of his shirt stood out against the pale hues of the walls, forming a striking visual contrast that only amplified the raw urgency of the moment. Time was of the essence. "Something's wrong," Kira gasped, taking shallow breaths. "I think I saw something." Panic fluttered in her words, and an unsettling chill spread across the room. What could a little girl possibly see in the dead of night that would terrify her so? Shadows in the corners seemed to shift, whispering secrets, and a hefty silence fell, almost as though the mansion held its breath, waiting. It was eerie, an electric charge, an expectation that something more sinister lurked beyond the visible. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Kira's breathing was more ragged now, each gasp pulling deeper at her father's insides. "It was dark, Daddy. It came out the closet." A shiver crept up his spine. An inner voice screamed at him, what if it was just a nightmare? Nightmares, after all, can become reality. The mansion groaned in the silence, an eerie backdrop to their budding horror. He felt the weight of her words, like a lump in his throat. The air around them was thick, almost suffocating. He glanced towards the closet, a looming dark figure in the corner, a nightmare waiting to be unveiled. Was it possible? He could practically hear his heart thumping, a surging drum of fear echoing in the otherwise still room. He took a deep breath, preparing to confront whatever lay behind that door. Eyes darting between Kira and the shadowed closet, his heart was a mixture of dread and fierce protectiveness. What if there was something waiting for them in the dark? And just as he began to rise, a strange creaking sound broke the silence. It was the closet, moving. As the door slowly began to crack open, unseen eyes seemed to peer out from the darkness, and Kira's scream pierced through the stillness. What the hell was on the other side? The tension exploded in that moment, the air thick enough to taste the fear pooling in their lungs. What would they find? And more importantly, would they survive the night? The closet door inched open, revealing a narrow sliver of darkness that seemed to stretch endlessly into the depths of night. A soft rustling sound drifted out, like the whispers of forgotten secrets begging to be heard. Kira's father froze, his heart racing as he grasped for courage, the desire to protect his little girl battling against the overwhelming sense of dread gnawing at him. "Kira, stay back," he urged softly, trying to maintain an air of confidence, even as his own body trembled. He needed to be the strong one. But every fiber in him screamed to turn and run far away from the malevolence lurking just beyond sight. He took a protective stance in front of her, blocking her view of the darkness, though he, too, could sense something watching. "Daddy!" Kira whimpered, her small voice barely above a whisper, as she clutched at his pant leg, nails digging in. The grip spoke volumes about her fear, anchoring him tightly to the ground. The shadows in the corner elongated, twisting as if alive, and the air grew colder, a biting chill that wrapped around them like icy fingers. Suddenly, a low growl escaped from the closet, a sound so primal it sent a jolt of adrenaline through Kira's father. A surge of fear washed over him, and his instincts kicked in. Without thinking, he reached for the closest object, a heavy brass lamp on a side table, to use as a makeshift weapon. His pulse pounded in his ears as he turned slightly toward the chilling sound emanating from within. "I'm warning you," he shouted, trying to sound fierce. "You've got no right to be here." The growl intensified, followed by an unsettling silence that filled the room, leaving only the sound of their shallow breaths. Kira squeezed his leg tighter, pressing her cheek against it, eyes wide and glassy. Each tick of the wall clock echoed painfully loud, like the countdown to an inevitable confrontation. And then, as if sensing their resolve, the shadows in the closet exploded outward. A figure broke through, dark and menacing, its shape shifting almost fluidly before their eyes, accentuated by the waning light filtering from behind Kira's father. It was unlike anything he'd seen, both human and beast. Its movements were erratic, simultaneously graceful and terrifying. Kira gasped, her fear palpable as she pulled closer to him. Tears filled her eyes as she whimpered, "Daddy, I want to go home." That pang of innocence hurt like a physical blow. His throat constricted, the primal need to protect her clawing at him fiercely. "I know, baby, I know," he murmured, voice strained, as he faced the encroaching darkness. With a sudden burst of courage, he lunged forward, lamp raised high, ready to confront the horror. "Leave us alone." But just as he closed the distance, the figure halted, eyes glistening, a mixture of intelligence and fury within them. It was neither fully here nor there, existing on the cusp of reality and nightmare. The atmosphere thickened, a suffocating wall of terror enveloping them. "Daddy?" Kira's voice trembled, laced with something deeper. Was it hope or despair? Then, with a terrifying screech, the figure lunged forward. The lamp flew from his hands, clattering helplessly to the floor, the confrontation frantically escalating into chaos. Kira screamed, his heart raced, and everything spiraled into darkness. But suddenly, a thunderous crash echoed from the hallway, rattling the frames on the wall. The mansion trembled, as if ready to collapse under its own secrets. What was that? Kira's father thought, his instincts screaming that something was terribly wrong. In that moment, the figure withdrew, vanishing into the shadows like mist. Silence took over, swallowing them whole. "Kira?" he called out, panic tightening around his chest. As the dust settled, a faint light flickered from the hallway. What had come to save them? But they weren't out of danger yet. Questions swirled in his mind. What was that creature? What else lurked in the corners of their opulent nightmare? Tension held a tight grip, as the door creaked open wider, revealing a figure just beyond the threshold. "Daddy! Who is that?" Kira cried, realization dawning that there was indeed more to come. What awaited them now? Would this new presence be friend or foe? The air crackled with tension, and with hearts racing, they prepared for whatever lay ahead. Kira's father held his breath, the fear gripping his chest tightening like a vice. The figure standing in the doorway was obscured by the dim light, but he could make out a silhouette, a tall man dressed in dark clothing, his features somewhat blurred, but an unsettling aura radiated from him. "Who are you?" Kira's father demanded, finding a semblance of strength through sheer desperation. He stood his ground, forcing his voice to remain firm despite the quake in his heart. "Please," the man spoke, his voice smooth yet laced with sadness, "you don't understand. I'm here to help you." Kira cowered behind her father, peeking out with wide, terrified eyes. "Daddy, I don't want him here." "No, Kira, listen to me," the stranger urged, stepping closer, though he seemed to understand that each stride needed to be restrained. "What's in that closet isn't just a shadow. It's a keeper of secrets. Secrets that could destroy you both if you let it." The air felt thick and murky as Kira's father processed those words. He recognize this man, but if anyone knew of the creature, he needed to know more. "Secrets?" he whispered, the word tinged with an echo of his own fears. "What exactly are you talking about?" The figure looked toward the closet, his gaze serious. "I can't explain everything right now, but you have to trust me. The darkness inside has a hold on you, and it's hungry and angry." Kira clutched her father tighter, and he could feel her fear rising. He glanced at her, then back at the stranger. This was a decision he didn't take lightly. The very concept of trust felt insurmountable given the circumstances. "Why should I trust you?" he asked bluntly, fighting to keep his voice steady. "Because I know what it is. I've seen it, I've battled it. If it's in this house, it's connected to you," the man declared. "I came to warn you before it's too late." The walls around them seemed to close in, every creak of the old floorboards screaming for attention. Kira's father realized that the house had always felt alive, an entity of its own. Chills crawled up his spine as memories of strange noises and flickering lights rushed back. "What do you mean, connected to us?" Kira's father pressed, feeling a sudden rush of urgency. "If you want your daughter to be safe, you need to confront it," the stranger said softly, his voice dropping to a grave seriousness. "Or it will devour everything you love." Each syllable cut through the air like a serrated knife, awakening a primal fear. He looked back toward the closet, darkness still whispered and shifted within. The man stepped closer again, his tone urgent, "You cannot let it know you're afraid. That's its power, fear is its sustenance. If you show weakness, it will seize the moment." He pressed, his eyes widening, cutting through the haze of uncertainty. "You have to stand strong for your daughter." Kira trembled, biting her lip as her father's resolve began to crystallize. "Okay," he said finally, drawing in a shaky breath to withstand the rising tide of dread. "What do we do?" "Look for the light," the stranger replied, his eyes gleaming strangely in the dark. "You must face it together. Only together can you shine through to bring the truth into the light." The tremors of uncertainty still quivered in his gut, but one thing was clear now. They could not remain here, caught up in shadows and fear. Just as he gathered the strength to move forward, the mansion let out a low groan, echoing as if in protest. Kira let out a small whimper. "Follow me," the stranger urged. "But be ready, for if we venture into those shadows, we may discover far more than we bargained for." As he turned, Kira's father hesitated for a moment, knowing this choice could lead them into an abyss. But then he vowed deep down he would do whatever it took to protect her. They stepped forward into the darkness, hearts pounding, uncertain of what awaited them. Would they find redemption or unraveling terror? The haunting of old secrets awaited, and they needed to extract the light from the abyss. With every step deeper into adventure, the weight of unsung horrors loomed ahead. What lay ahead could change everything. Could they emerge whole, or would the shadows consume them forever? As they crossed the threshold into the darkened corridor, an icy draft wove through the air, each gust whispering gentle warnings. Kira's father could feel his heart racing, a loud drumbeat echoing in his ears, overwhelming any thoughts of self-preservation. He glanced down at Kira, her small hand trembling in his. "Stay close," he whispered, clenching her grip tightly. The stranger led them down the narrow hall, the dim light from the overhead fixture barely illuminating the peeling wallpaper and the cracked wooden floors beneath their feet. Shadows seemed to dance at the edges of their vision, twisting into shapes that felt eerily sentient. Kira flinched with every creaking board, her father holding his breath as an uneasy silence filled the space. "Remember," the figure urged, a steely resolve in his voice, "the light is your only ally." He paused before a faded door at the end of the hall, the wood warped and stained. The air thickened around them, as if the house held its breath, anticipating what might unfold. Kira's father took a step back instinctively, his instincts screaming at him to turn and run. "What is behind this door?" he asked, fighting the tremor in his voice. The stranger's gaze bore into him, unyielding. "The heart of the darkness. It won't come out on its own. You need to summon it, and then confront it." Before he could protest, the man reached for the door handle. The sound of metal scraping against wood resonated loudly, making Kira jump. As the door creaked open, an overwhelming wave of cold swept past them, making the air thick with dread. "Be vigilant," the stranger advised, then stepped aside, allowing Kira's father to take the lead. Shaking, he took a deep breath, and as he crossed into the room, the faint stench of decay washed over him. Dim light flickered from a single bulb overhead, illuminating a scene that looked as if it had been pulled from a nightmare. The walls were lined with mirrors, some cracked, reflecting distorted images of themselves. A large, antique mirror stood at the far end, its surface shrouded in shadow. It beckoned strangely, an enigma wrapped in darkness. "What is this place?" Kira stammered, eyes wide as she pulled on her father's sleeve. Her fear was palpable, wrapping around him like a choking vine. "This is where the truth lies," the stranger said, his voice turning grave. "It feeds on fear, but if you seek the light, the reflection may give you what you need to confront it." Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted, the air grew heavier. The mirror began to shimmer, ripples distorting its surface like a disturbed pond. Kira's father felt a chill grip his spine. Something deep within stirred, a recognition that clawed at his insides. With a glance at Kira, he stepped closer, muscles taut and ready. "I won't let it take you," he vowed, and the words felt like a shield against the encroaching darkness. As they drew nearer, whispers echoed off the walls, clamoring for his attention. They thrummed with memories, shadows of the past, regrets, secrets buried deep. Every familiar voice tugged at his heart, reminding him of every moment misconstrued by the weight of despair. "Listen," the stranger urged. "Focus on the light. We need to show it we aren't afraid." Kira's breath quickened, and a creeping panic began to form. "What happens if we don't?" she asked, her voice trembling. A moment later, without warning, the mirrors around them crackled violently. "Face it now," the stranger urged, his urgency slicing through the rising fear. A wave of darkness surged from the mirror, sprawling towards them. It took form, a figure woven from shadow, eyes glowing red with malice. The air screamed as it lunged forward, an embodiment of everything they were afraid of. "Stay behind me," her father shouted, heart racing as he faced the lurking horror, adrenaline coursing through him in fierce bursts. As the creature lunged, Kira gasped, her hold on him tightening further. But in that instant of chaos, a glimmer flickered from the depths of the antique mirror. In the tension that gripped the room, Kira's father wondered, was it their salvation or their end? With trepidation, they braced themselves for what lay ahead. The outcome hung in the balance, and the struggle for light was about to begin. Would they unravel the secrets lurking within, or would the darkness consume them whole? The creature lunged, a mass of swirling shadow that clawed at the air, hungry and relentless. Kira's father felt his heart leap into his throat as he instinctively stepped in front of Kira, ready to shield her from the encroaching darkness. A panic-fueled surge of strength coursed through him as he prepared to fight. Focus on the light. The stranger's voice pierced through the chaos, and Kira's father pushed back the fear gnawing at his mind. The flicker from the mirror caught his eye again, stronger now, a beacon in the dark. "Not you," he roared. "You're not taking my daughter?" He could feel the shadows pressing in around them, cold fingers grazing his skin, but he fought against them, fueled by sheer desperation. Kira clutched his waist, her small frame trembling violently against him. He glanced down, and even through her fear, his heart burst with love and fierce determination. "Stay close," he commanded, feeling the pull of the darkness as the figure twisted into something more congealed, more threatening. The creature seemed to form a face, a horrid visage crossing the threshold between nightmare and reality, mocking their vulnerability. Its hollow eyes glowed fiercely, as if it thrived on their dread. "Tell me what you see," the stranger yelled, urgency palpable in his tone, forcing Kira's father to focus. My memories," he shouted back, struggling to maintain his strength against the rising tide of darkness. "They're all swirling together. It's my past, filled with failures and regrets." "Then confront them." The reflection in the mirror surged brighter, activating some deep-seated determination within him. That light, was it hope? Or merely an illusion? Kira squeezed her eyes shut, whispering tiny prayers. In all their terror, he felt something snap within him. It was a strand connecting to those memories, and the realization hit him. To fight the creature, they had to embrace the truth behind the fears it fed on. He surged towards the mirror, energy radiating from his core. The figure lunged again, but he stepped closer, hands extended as if reaching for the light. "You're just a shadow. A whisper of what once was," he yelled, the power of his conviction startling even him. For a fleeting moment, the figure halted, a shimmer of doubt scaling its form. Kira's father took another bold step forward. "You don't own me! You want to hurt my daughter!" In a flash, he felt something shift. The darkness around him began to wane. The creature recoiled as if stung, its resolve faltering. Kira released a strangled cry, her voice mingling with the whispers filling the air, combining into a sharp fairy-like melody that resonated through the room. Then, an unexpected warmth burst from the depths of the mirror, enveloping him and Kira. The shadows screamed, a chilling mix of fury and fear, as the golden light illuminated their surroundings, illuminating the jagged edges of their fears. "Now, Kira!" he yelled, feeling the strength of their bond shatter what chains the creature held on them. "Reach for it. Let the light guide you." Kira nodded, and together they stepped towards the mirror. In that moment, everything felt charged with purpose. Time felt like it suspended. They faced the shadows together, trembling yet strong, bound by love rather than fear. But just as they reached out, the mirror erupted into a blinding whirlwind of light and chaos. A piercing scream echoed. Was it the creature or the echoes of their past? As Kira fell to her knees, the floor shuddered beneath them, and suddenly the mirror cracked, spilling out a shadowy mist that twisted into the air. Amidst it all, Kira's father glanced back at the stranger, heart clenching at their impending fate. "Don't give up," he shouted as the room spun wildly, caught between light and dark. In the sudden tempest, an insatiable question loomed above them like a storm cloud. How would they emerge from this tempest? And maybe, Would they ever see the truth behind the darkness again? Kira's father's heart raced, pounding against his ribs like a desperate prisoner. The whirlpool of shadows churned around them, tightening like a noose. He could barely keep his balance as the room shook. The mirror exploded into a cascade of light, and yet amidst that brilliance, the echo of Kira's voice drummed in his ears, raw and haunting. "Daddy! Help!" He turned to her, finding her hunched over and clawing at her stomach, panic etched on her small face. For a brief moment, a wall of disbelief crashed over him. Was it just fear manifesting in her body, or was the darkness invading her, consuming the very essence of his child? Kira's father clenched his fists, drawing on every ounce of willpower. "No! You can't take her!" he bellowed, but the shadows twisted around Kira, spawning grotesque forms that hissed and snarled at him. Each sound twisted the pit of his stomach tighter. "Channel the light." The stranger's voice rang again, breaking through the din of chaos. "Don't lose sight of what matters." But how could he focus on the light when every breath he took was filled with shadows? Those memories whispered promises of defeat, clawing at his sanity, but he wouldn't let them win. Not now. Kira's small fingers dug into the carpet, as if holding onto a lifeline, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. "I don't want to be here anymore." Desperation clawed at him, as Kira's pain engulfed him. He dropped to his knees beside her, the ground throbbing with darkness beneath him. "Focus on me, Kira," he urged, taking her trembling hands in his. "You're strong. Remember our happy times. Focus on the times we laughed, the times we danced." In that whirlpool of chaos, Kira's eyes glittered with unshed tears. "But they're so scary," her voice quaked, a ghost of all the joy he wanted to preserve for her outshone by fear. "Don't let them take away your joy," he commanded, squeezing her hands tightly. "We'll fight this together." Then, a moment of stillness descended, a silence that held its breath. In that few seconds, he felt the weight of her strength flood back to him, a cautious flame igniting in her spirit. He took a deep breath and began to recall their happiest memories: the picnics in the park, the laughter shared over a single ice cream cone, the bedtime stories that wrapped them in warmth. Kira seemed to sense it, drawing strength from his voice and memories, breathing deeper. Suddenly, the darkness shrieked, a mix of rage and agony that rattled the walls. The shadows surged towards them, claws glinting menacingly. "Listen to me," he shouted against the howling winds. "We own these memories. They are ours." Kira began to hum the same melody she sang during their summer afternoons. The music spiraled through the darkness, mingling with her father's voice, filling the room with an ethereal glow. The shadows recoiled, writhing as if stung by the bright light of innocence. But just when victory seemed tangible, the creature lunged forward, a shape more distinct than ever before. Its face was a grotesque mimicry of Kira's, morphing into a twisted version of the child he loved, filled with anger and sorrow. "Stay back," he yelled, body tensing as he stepped in front of Kira again. Their connection crackled like electricity, fortifying his resolve. "You will not take her." Determination surged through him like a river cutting through stone. They had the light. They had each other. But then, right as the shadows retreated, the stranger's eyes widened in horror. "No!" he screamed, pointing at the splintered mirror, as it began to warp and twist like a living thing on the edge of breaking. "What is it?" Kira's father asked, the dread pooling in his stomach. "Something is coming. Something worse than the shadows." And just as the last flicker of hope ignited, an unearthly howl rang out, slicing through their moment of triumph. A pulse of darkness thrust them backward, and Kira's grip loosened, dread creeping back into her eyes. What could possibly emerge from the cracked mirror? Would their light be enough? Or had they awakened something they could never hope to combat? As the howl echoed in the room, A chill crawled up Kira's father's spine. It was as if the air had turned to ice, wrapping around him, squeezing the breath from his lungs. The darkness felt alive, writhing, hungry. The mirror pulsed, its glassy surface rippling like water disturbed by a stone. "Run!" he shouted, a visceral instinct kicking in, but Kira trembled beside him, paralyzed by fear and confusion. "Kira, we have to move." "I can't," she gasped, clutching her stomach tighter, her face racked with pain. It was as if the shadows were not just attacking her spirit, but physically encroaching on her very being. "There is no time for fear. We need to go." He desperately tried to pull her up, but a heavy force pressed down on him, suffocating, as if the shadows were trying to drown them both. Suddenly, from the depths of the cracked mirror, a figure began to emerge. It was a distortion at first, a swirl of dark mist that twisted and shifted, but it soon began to solidify. An embodiment of all their worst fears, something unyielding and primal took shape. A large, anguished face appeared, a grotesque reflection of loss and despair, bearing features reminiscent of Kira, distorted beyond recognition, eyes aflame with wicked malice. "Daddy!" Kira cried, her voice breaking, as the creature let out a piercing wail that rang like a bell of doom. It echoed in his mind, igniting memories of his own failures, the times he couldn't protect her, all swallowed by the darkness that now stood before them. "Stay close to me." He fought against the suffocating dread, launching himself forward, shielding her with his body. "You are not her. You are nothing," he roared, hoping to inject strength into his voice. The creature paused, as if caught off guard. "Daddy, I'm scared," Kira whined, tears pooling in her frightened eyes. The shadows around her pulsed in response, like a breath hitching in anticipation. "Look at me, Kira," he begged, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Remember the stories? The knights and the dragons? You are the brave one. You can fight this." Kira's eyes flickered. Perhaps in that moment, she heard the shield of their memories channeling through him. The creature in front of them snarled, each twisted feature writhing with fury. "Together," he yelled, clenching her hand tighter. "They couldn't let it shatter what they had built. Whatever comes, we face it. We are stronger together." In that instant, a spark of defiance ignited in Kira's chest. She stood, feet steady on the trembling ground, eyes narrowing at the monster before her. "No!" she shouted, summoning all her youthful strength, her spirit fused with his resolve, wild and unapologetic. The shadows hesitated, recoiling as her unwavering will pushed the darkness back momentarily. But the creature wouldn't be so easily deterred. It lunged again, faster this time, hate and sorrow embodied. Kira's father braced himself, steeling his heart against the impending collision. Suddenly, in a flash of instinct, he reached into his pocket, pulling out a small locket, a trinket that held their happiest days. He pressed it into Kira's palm. "Focus on this. Let it guide you. We love each other, and that is our power." As the creature closed in, the locket's warmth spread through Kira's fingers, lighting a spark within. With a voice trained in belief and hope, she echoed her father's words, chanting, "Love." Yet the shadows shifted violently once more, and the howl that erupted was deafening, an anguished wail of something lost that transcended both time and pain. The stranger's frantic warnings echoed in Kira's father's mind. What if it's not just shadows? What if something worse is coming? Before he could question it, the mirror shattered completely, and in that moment, Kira's father felt a sickening twist in his gut. Darkness surged forward, consuming even the brightest shards of hope. Would they have enough light to stave off the tide? Or had they unlocked an ancient terror that would wrap around their hearts like a serpent, squeezing the life from them? In a split second of uncertainty, the creature lunged one last time, its jagged teeth bared, and the shadows unleashed around them, ready to swallow their light whole. Something had to give. Something had to change. But what would that cost? The darkness erupted, swirling around them in chaos. Kira's father felt its cold grasp squeezing tighter, stripping away his breath. It was no longer just a creature before them. It was a tide of anguish, every ounce of despair it emitted wrapping around their hearts like iron chains. "Hold on to me," he shouted, though his voice trembled. He could see Kira's face, pale but resolute. Those delicate features mirrored his own growing horror, and yet, nestled amongst the fear was a flicker of fierce determination. As the creature lunged, its mouth opening wide to unleash another wail, time seemed to stretch. With every muscle tensed, he pulled Kira closer, forcing them both to the ground. The impact shook the very air, the walls around them vibrating as the monstrous presence filled the space. "Fight back, Kira. Don't let it win," he urged, desperate for her to harness the power their love had awakened. But Kira's focus faltered as darkness clawed at the edges of her mind. The locket in her palm grew warm, like a heartbeat echoing through the shadows, reminding her of the countless moments filled with laughter, warmth, and strength. "Dad, it's too strong," she cried. "No. You are stronger." The words surged from deep within him. "Remember our favorite nights? The stories? You have a light inside you. It can break this." In that moment, the echoes of their shared stories swirled in her mind, and they formed a fragile shield against the overwhelming darkness. Kira squeezed the locket tightly, visions of their happiest memories flashing bright, an image of a warm summer day, the hushed whispers under the stars, the embrace of love. "Love!" she shouted again, her voice ringing with defiance. "I want to let you take us." The shadows recoiled, as if stung by her assertion. The flickering light from the locket grew, illuminating their surroundings, pulsing and warm. It pushed back against the encroaching darkness. Kira felt strength surging through her veins. She stood, propelled by a power even she didn't know existed. She faced the creature, eyes blazing with courage. Yet the monstrous form wavered, recognizing the threat posed by their united will. It spoke then, a cacophony of anguished voices blending into a single growl. "You think love can save you? You think you can escape your own despair?" Kira's heart raced, a surge of uncertainty wanting to take control, but she drew in a deep breath. Love is stronger than despair. Suddenly, from the rift where the mirror had shattered, a blinding light erupted, a celestial white descending from above, illuminating the dark shadows curling around them. Kira's locket glowed in sync with the light, casting rays of hope outward. "Focus!" her father shouted, recognizing the light that surged forward. "We have to use it. Together." As the radiance filled the room, the creature screamed, its form contorting and writhing, unable to bear the truth of their bond and resilience. But just as Kira was about to unleash the full might of that incandescent light, a sudden crack tore through the air. A deeper shadow, thicker than the rest, had detached itself from the creature, swirling rapidly towards them, moving with a purpose driven by hatred. "No!" Kira's father yelled as it lunged forward, aiming straight for her, hungry for her light as it tried to snuff it out. In that moment, Kira realized this darkness was not just a monster that emerged from the mirror. It was a part of her, a manifestation of everything she tried to hide. And now, it was time to confront it. "Dad, I need you to trust me," she whispered, her voice steadying. "Whatever you face, I'm right here," he promised, fear tight in his gut but trust unyielding in his heart. Kira took one last breath, feeling the warmth of the locket and her father's love envelop her as she raised her hand, ready to embrace both the light and the darkness that was her truth. But what would happen when she confronted the darkest parts of herself? Would she become a beacon or succumb to the shadows? The dark mass surged, a tangible embodiment of everything Kira wished to escape. It pulled at her thoughts, sank its claws into her memories, threatening to ensnare her in despair. In that moment, she felt the weight of every fear and heartache wrapped around her like a heavy cloak, trying to pull her down into endless night. "Don't look away, Kira." Her father's voice penetrated the oppressive atmosphere like a lighthouse beam cutting through fog. She met his gaze, fierce and unwavering, anchoring her against the dread crawling into her heart. With a deep breath, she stepped forward. The shadow halted, quivering, as if gauging her resolve. "You're not real," she shouted, summoning every ounce of courage. "You're made of my fears. You can't hold me back." In response, the darkness roared a sound so primal it threatened to drown her in terror. Yet, with each heartbeat, her resolve crystallized. The light from her locket pulsed, setting her chest aglow, sparking a warmth that surged through her limbs. Kira focused on her pain, her insecurities. Unwanted thoughts swirled. The sting of betrayal from a friend, the weight of expectations crushing her spirit, the feeling of never being good enough. She gathered them all, her anger igniting a fire within her. "I won't let you control me," she screamed. The creature recoiled, as if her words struck true, the shadows flickering with uncertainty. Kira thrust her hand forward, feeling the locket channeling her love and strength, the celestial light flowing from it like molten gold. But the shadow twisted and morphed, launching at her with visceral rage. Kira and her father stepped back, the overwhelming force of despair swirling. She could see its dark tendrils reaching, gripping her memories, desperately wrenching them from her grasp. "Fight it! You are not alone. Remember who you are?" her father shouted, his voice a battle cry against the encroaching despair. Kira felt his love, warm and fierce, swarming around her. "I can do this!" she shouted, and with that conviction, she plunged into the center of her worst fears. Images rushed through her mind, shadows of family struggles, echoes of empty promises, moments of feeling ignored. The darkness latched onto them, its glee palpable. Kira's cheeks burned with righteous fury. "You are not my truth. You are not my reality." As she confronted each memory, the locket flared with incandescent brilliance. The shadows writhed, diminishing under the ferocity of her light, but then she saw it the creature's true form. It was no longer just a representation of fear, but an amalgamation of grief and loss, her deep-rooted insecurities leaking into every corner. "Your pain does not define you," Kira whispered, her voice soft yet powerful. The shadow laughed, a hollow, echoing sound, clawing at her heart. "What do you know of pain?" it taunted. "You think you can outrun me?" But Kira's light grew brighter, pouring from the locket in waves. "I've faced it all, and I will face you. Your hold on me is broken." With that declaration, she surged forward, engulfing the darkness and radiance, her memories no longer shackles, but anchors for her truth. The shadow shrieked, the cacophony of anguish mingling with her resolve, as she wrestled to seal it away. In a moment of clarity, she saw the rift widen the space through which the creature had emerged. It flickered. This was her chance. "Dad, we need to finish this," Kira shouted, her heart racing, hands trembling with adrenaline. "Together," he responded, a fierce determination ignited in his eyes. Kira reached out, feeling his presence as they both raised their hands toward the encroaching darkness. But as they prepared to unleash their combined light, a flash of uncertainty flickered through her mind. Could she truly banish it? Or would it spiral into her, consuming her whole? As the blinding light burst forth, enveloping them, Kira braced for the answer that would shape her fate and the fight against the shadows inside her. What lay on the other side of that luminosity? Would they conquer the shadows, or would new ones emerge? Light exploded around them, a wave of warmth cascading through the room, countering the chilling grasp of darkness. Kira and her father stood side by side, hands extended, charging their love with the strength of all they had endured. The light spread like wildfire, illuminating the fear and weariness that had clung to them like a heavy fog. "Now!" Kira's father shouted, his voice resonating with courage. Together they unleashed their light, a force stronger than any shadow haunting them. The room shimmered, reflecting their determination. As the radiant energy soared toward the creature, Kira felt an echoing harmony between her heart and the warmth surrounding them. The darkness writhed in response, a furious entity that realized its hold was weakening. The shadowed figure that had tormented them morphed and twisted, desperation clawing at its form. "You think you can escape?" it bellowed, its many voices swirling together in a chaotic symphony. "You are merely the sum of your fears." "No!" Kira cried out, feeling the power surge through her body. "I am love. I am not defined by fear." With every painful memory she confronted, every moment of doubt, she infused the light with the truth of her being. The creature shrieked, the sound echoing with visceral rage as the brilliant force enveloped it. "Focus, Kira. Remember," her father urged, his voice firm, like solid ground beneath her feet. Together, they guided the light forward, each moment amplifying their resolve as it pierced through the shadows. Then, with a blinding flash, the walls trembled and the mirror behind the creature shattered further, revealing new paths of light. Kira felt her heart expand, letting warmth radiate into the depths of her soul. It was time to confront her truths, to stand against the darkness that had long lingered. "Together!" she shouted, summoning the essence of their shared memories, intertwining them with courage. The creature faltered, caught off guard by the intensity of Kira's will. It grasped at the remnants of hope within it, but the growing light overwhelmed all. "No! You can't do this!" it cried, rage tinged with desperation. "Yes, we can! This ends now." Kira's voice carried the weight of every moment of struggle, every laugh, every tear shed in seeking light amidst despair. The truth ignited within her, casting away shadows underfoot. With a final surge, the combined force of Kira and her father burst forth, a torrent of light carving through the darkness and pinning the creature in place. The shadows began to unravel, fading into the bright brilliance that enveloped them. Gasps of confusion rippled through the air, a symphony of fading cries surrendering to illumination. In that moment of triumph, Kira's eyes gleamed with determined defiance. "You aren't my truth," she declared, feeling the darkness splinter, breaking like glass against their light. The creature let out a final anguished roar, torn apart by the brilliance, disappearing into oblivion as the room exploded with light. The echoes of despair quieted, leaving behind a silence that felt almost sacred. Kira opened her eyes, taking a deep breath filled with a profound sense of freedom. They stood together, the remnants of darkness evaporating, a promise of renewal writing the edges of their hearts. As the light faded, revealing the room significantly changed, a sense of calm washed over them. Kira looked up at her father, his face filled with a mixture of pride and love. "We did it," she murmured, a disbelieving smile spreading across her face. "Yes, we did," he said, kneeling to pull her into an embrace, feeling the warmth of her spirit against him. "You were so brave." Tears wet Kira's cheeks, not from sorrow, but from relief. The fear had dissipated, leaving room for joy and safety. The locket still glimmered in her palm, a reminder of their strength, a symbol of their bond and the light that they could carry forward. In that glorious embrace, Kira knew they had faced their darkest fears and emerged victorious. No longer shackled by hesitation, the shadows would never again claim them. Hand in hand, they stepped out of the dimly lit room, light flooding the mansion as dawn began to break outside. They had fought together, rediscovered the depths of their love, and now the shadows would always remain just that, shadows, transformed by their truth. The world outside felt fresh, alive, as the sun painted everything in gold. Kira squeezed her father's hand tighter, knowing their journey together was only beginning. They would face every obstacle, every shadow that dared to intrude, fortified by the light they found together, their love shining brighter than any darkness. It was a new day, the dawn of hope. And it was time for new adventures, side by side. You need to subscribe now to witness more incredible stories like this. This is the moment to show your support and keep the magic alive. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let more people experience this journey. Don't wait even one more second to flood the comments with your reactions and theories about Kira and her father's brave fight. And remember, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, we can change lives.